Should you consider insuring your kids and or your grandkids? That topic coming up right now. I'm Rob Tatro from robtatro.com, portfolio manager here at Canaccord Genuity Wealth Management and the Tatro Wealth Advisor Group. Today is a fun one. We are chatting insurance, and we're chatting insurance not just for yourself. We're actually chatting insurance for your kids and grandkids, something that's not often talked about. A lot of misconceptions out there in the market. I'm going to bring in our expert here, wealth and estate planning specialist, Adam. Boss Adam, welcome to the Tatro Show. Great to have you here.
Hey, Rob. Thanks for having me back.
Yes. All right. So before we get into that, make sure to like, subscribe, share with all your friends. Give us your thoughts, comments, put them in the link below. But the big one is subscribe. Take a sec to subscribe. All right. We put out some great content. We'd love to have you as a subscriber. Adam, the question of whether or not I should be spending money on insuring my kids and my grandkids. Sometimes there gets a lot of flack. It gets dragged through the mud. Take me through the big lines and why it does make sense for certain individuals.
Well, first of all, it's one of those things that's nice to have. I mean, obviously, we want to make sure that mom and dad are properly protected first, have enough insurance in place to make sure the family's okay financially. Should one of them pass away or experience a serious illness, that's obviously first priority. The next step would be, how is your ability to earn money affected, by one of your kids being sick? You're going to have to take extra time off work. You're going to have additional expenses, hospital trips, medications, all those things that aren't traditionally covered that you need to be out of pocket for.
Right, because normally what you have is, if you're doing insurance, you're either doing it as a risk mitigation tool, right? You're trying to mitigate risk and protect that risk, which is what you covered, or you're doing it kind of as a tax planning or long-term strategic goal. And I think it could fall into both categories, could it not?
Yeah. So, I mean, you're covering the risk aspect. What if something does happen? I mean, nobody ever wants to think that something is going to happen to their children, but at least they can have some sort of protection in place in the very unfortunate event that something would happen. Families are going through enough stress at that point in time. The last thing they need is additional financial stress. On that topic, I recently had a chat with a psychologist who's counseling couples and families that are going through very similar situations. And she said, having insurance on kids is fantastic. It helps at least ease some of the financial burden and hardships that those families are going through, so that they have more time that they can grieve and go through their own process.
I imagine a lot of times this is something that you lock in at a fairly cheap rate, right? I imagine it's extremely affordable to lock in insurance on your kids or grandkids.
Yeah, the best thing about insuring them while they're young is that, they're healthy. They're insurable. It's super cheap rates by comparison to when they're an adult. Ideally, in the big picture, this is something that you can gift to them when they're older, when they need it for their families. I mean, you've locked in great rates. Perhaps the policy is even fully paid up by the time they're an adult, and they have it in place for their family for when they need it the most down the road.
Yeah, that would be a way to do it as a gift, right? You would take now you would normally be doing whole life and not term in those situations, I imagine, or if it is term, it's convertible, I would imagine. And if you're doing that, you're taking it, and at some point you're saying, I've paid up for this policy. I love you, my son, my grandson. Here's a fully paid up whole life or universal life policy.
Yeah, it's generally a whole life, maybe an option to buy some additional insurance without having to requalify for it when they're an adult down the road. It's a great gift. It's a great way of intergenerational wealth transfer. So, grandparents or parents want to create a lasting legacy for their family. This is a gift that keeps on giving for generations to come.
Now, there's a lot of talk. I mean, the negative talk around this would be that if someone is doing this not in the best interest of long-term planning for a client. But I mean, if you've gone through and it's not something that you would do ahead of yourself potentially, right? You would obviously want to make sure that the risk has been mitigated for yourself. If you have a corporation, that the risk has been mitigated there. But if you're wealthy and the kids are insurable and it's a gift you want to leave, there's actually no downside to this, right?
I don't think there's a downside, but I'm the one that sells insurance, so maybe I'm a little bit biased on that one, but I do think it's a very valuable thing to have. I've seen a lot of cases where by the time the kids are 10, 13 years old, due to a change in health or even family health, they no longer can qualify for insurance. So by having it in place earlier, they have it in place for when they have their own family or when they have a mortgage down the road that they need insurance for. They have that protection in place already, which is fantastic.
The key, I think, with everything that you do, Adam, and that we do here at the Tatro Group is to make absolutely sure that all the advice is given with a holistic approach to wealth. And that is, we look at all aspects of your wealth and we make sure we give you advice based on that picture. And when we do that, always know that we are doing what's always the absolute best interest of the client, first and foremost. And oftentimes it can involve recommendations for this. Adam, I want to thank you. I really appreciate your time. Don't forget to subscribe, guys. Click the button, subscribe. Again, Rob Tatro from robtatro.com, portfolio manager here at Canaccord Genuity Wealth Management. Thank you for tuning in, guys. We'll see you in the next video.